271, am I right?
271.
What just happened?
G.I.
Hello,
Joburg.
Bug Force.
What just
Whoa.
happened, guys?
What? We started an episode. That's what happened.
Sorry, my screen, like I had nothing, and now I just heard 271. What did you?
271, that's us. We had our intro. It was a very cool intro. There was a tank, and it stopped, and then suddenly we all joined the episode, and it was G.I. Joburg 271. Rob joined by Paul and Steve. What are we talking about today, Stephen? Tell me about this. What's going on?
Well, because October marks two things. Firstly, the birthday of G.I. Joburg. Yes, boys, do you realize that G.I. Joburg is 11 years old? More thoughts on that later. But October 2022 specifically heralds the first time in 3 years that I will be released from my international exile and be able to go home. Not only that, but it is also quite possibly, and in all likelihood, going to be the first time the three of us are in each other's presence for the last, more than 3 years. I think December of 2018 was the last time the three of us were in each other's company.
Yeah.
And the big question is, if the three of us are together, would it not be the greatest shame if we didn't shoot a Playmotion specially to mark that auspicious occasion? So today, on G.I. Joburg, we are giving you an exclusive peek behind the curtain as the three of us, for the very first time, break ice on planning a new Playmotion.
Live.
This kind of thing is best enjoyed with a beverage in hand, but since it is creeping up on 11 a.m. South African time, I'm not going to insist that you guys have a bevy. Maybe a strong cup of coffee will do. I don't know what these boys are bringing to the table. They don't know what I'm bringing to the table. But needless to say, I'm very excited to pick their brains and invite you to join us for the ride. But first, let's switch things up. Rob, what's new in your life, brother?
Ain't nothing much new here except the weather is getting more and more beautiful. It's like it's getting ready to welcome you back, Stephen. It's like, hey, this guy, he hasn't been here for a while. Let's get ready for some crazy cool weather. It's pretty chill week. I've been catching up on Rick and Morty, the cartoon. It's actually overall a pretty solid season, more solid than the previous one, I think, which was very hit and miss. But yeah, that's what I've been doing. Rick and Mortying it up.
You also say hit and miss. Now I always find that to be like nonsense. Isn't
Well,
the
to
saying
me,
hit or miss?
well, oh, it's actually hit or miss. Okay.
Look,
Well, no,
I'm
it was
just
hit
thinking about
and
it
miss at the
logically.
same time. It was
okay.
simultaneously hit and miss because some episodes were hits and other episodes were misses. So overall, the entire season was a hit and miss.
But in the era of binging, something that has a very complicated multiversal continuity like Rick and Morty, it's very difficult to keep up with it because it is happening in real time. It's not like The Sopranos, which is done and dusted, and we can now watch the whole thing in quick succession. Like this show, like you spend the first half of the new season trying to remember what the hell happened in the previous season. I mean, unless you're the kind of guy who goes back and rewatches things and actually like really takes them on board and memorizes the
not at
story
all. You gotta have to remember the stuff because I mean, like, for a show that claims to be like not so worried about its own continuity, it was very heavy continuity. The season was like, do you remember the time when this guy did this? Do you remember did you remember like where these people originally came from?
Do they still mix it up though? Like every now and then there's an episode that breaks continuity and is its own thing. It's kind of a bottle episode. Like that seemed like Rick and Morty's strength for a while, but obviously, in order for there to be some kind of narrative grip, you've got to have, an evolving plot, not just a return to the status quo. So yeah, a show will always kind of be weighed down by its continuity eventually, if it gets really good.
Yeah.
It's gone all lost on us. Paul, how about you, brother?
I have had surprise busy work week, but that's not worth talking about. But aside from that, no, actually really cool. I've got a subscription to Crunchyroll, which is like super cheap, and I've been watching a lot of anime.
That's
I've been
anime.
yes, yeah. So I've been checking out a lot of anime. I've been watching. Well, I've got a Crunchyroll subscription to catch the new Gundam series that just started. So we're about 3 episodes in, and Crunchyroll's the only place you can really watch it officially. I think outside of South Africa, or if you have a VPN, you can catch it on YouTube, but that's just irritating. And then I sort of dug into the rabbit hole that is Crunchyroll, and I found Initial D, the anime. So I've been watching that, which has been wonderful, and also watching another great anime called 86, which I think a lot of GI Joe fans might enjoy because it's set in like a sort of dystopian world, and there's like mecha, but it's not giant robots. It's like spider tanks, and it's got a very on the ground feeling. It's very kind of, I don't want to say realistic, but it's gritty and it's hard and it's fun and it's action packed, and it also has some really good drama that backs it up. So yeah, I think if you're a GI Joe fan, you might enjoy 86 because it weaves quite a fun tale. But other than that, guys, no new toys or anything like that to report, which is actually okay. It's giving me a chance to enjoy the toys that I have received. And I did make some music for somebody's Playmotion feature that will be coming out soon. I don't know if I can say it on air
No.
yet. Yeah.
Absolutely. There will be a new premiere on the weekend of the 21st of October,
Oh my
which
god.
is coming around the corner. In fact, that is the day I arrive back home. It is also the day that one of the creators of this particular Playmotion will be arriving back in his home after a much needed getaway. So, more details to follow. I'll definitely put the premiere on all the socials once it's uploaded and ready for the countdown to begin. But yeah, just so everyone knows, there'll be some fresh G.I. Joburg Special Forces content that weekend. Yeah.
Hell
Just
yeah.
putting some
Great.
final touches on it myself, which, yeah, Paul, your track works sublimely, I'll have you know. Thank you.
So glad to hear that. That makes me very happy. And also on the topic of Playmotion, there's another great Playmotion that is waiting in the wings to be premiered. So for that special someone out there, we saw you. Don't worry, it's coming. We've just had to do some planning on our side with things. I don't want to just release it willy-nilly because everything's been coming at me and I don't want to rush stuff. So yeah, so guys, there's 2 Special Forces Playmotions on their way. So that's exciting.
Paul, circling back to a point that I touched on earlier, it's the 11th birthday of G.I. Joburg. Happy birthday, G.I. Joburg. Can you remember? Because I've got the reminder set in my phone to go off every year at, well, I suppose maybe 11 a.m. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. It's on the 15th of October every year. I get a little reminder, and I'm transported back to that day. I think I've relayed the events or relived or whatever. I have spoken about it in the past, but in your own words, man, what was it? What did we do that day that marked the birth of G.I. Joburg?
I feel like, because like I all I remember, dude, all
What
I
did we
remember
do
doing that,
marked the birth. Sounding dodgy.
all I remember doing that on that day, like really, is sitting in front of my big brown desk in my studio at my parents' place, and we were recording the conversation. We did like, I think we did 2 episodes, and I feel like we did 2 episodes in one day.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
they were only like half an hour long, so we had a topic. We rattled through our top fives or whatever, pertaining to the topic, and then we were like, well, that's in the can, but I want to talk some more about GI Joe. Let's do another one. So yeah, I think we did 2 back to back. Well,
Yeah,
we've
there was-
subsequently become more of a hour and a half to 2 hour length podcast, and I guess we can trace the roots of that back to that fateful night.
And I mean, it all started because every time Steve and I would get together, when Steve would come up to Joburg for a show or whatever, and we would hang out, we would just always talk about G.I. Joe, which I mean, we still do. We just, and then my girlfriend at the time, she was all like, yeah, you guys should record these conversations for posterity, or something along that line. Like you should record these conversations so that you don't have the same ones again, or something. And then that was kind of
Really? That was the
I'm pretty
thinking.
sure we're still having the same.
that was
conversation.
kind of the genesis of it all. Yeah, it was like,
She's so sick of hearing us repeating ourselves. She's like, no, you need a record of this so you can go
Come on,
back and say, oh, we've spoken on this already. And
but
thank
she's
you,
like,
listeners,
yeah,
for coming along on the ride. I'm
mm,
pretty sure we had about maybe half a dozen people listening to us back then. But with any luck, those 6 individuals are still here today. And the number has only grown in leaps and bounds. Our little niche of the internet, our corner of madness. But guys, let's shift the focus to what G.I. Joburg has become synonymous with. And I'm very grateful for it because it is totally our groove. Outside of just shooting the breeze together and talking about G.I. Joe, that being the podcasts, shooting Playmotions has become the way we play these days. And there is no greater joy that I have with the medium, other than, of course, releasing them into the YouTubes and having people give feedback. The greatest joy that Playmotion gives me is the planning phase, the
Pre-production.
creativity where you just throw it all at the wall. You know, nothing. You're not bound by windows of opportunity or the kind of toys you have to hand. You can just let it all hang out and then chip away at the things that are perhaps a little bit beyond our grasp. So
That's our blue
today,
sky
we're
phase.
gonna do that. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I think to get the ball rolling, it might be useful to, between the 3 of us, set the parameters a little bit. And the big questions that I want to ask the both of you is, do you want to keep this in strict G.I. Joe reality, or do you want to take on a more fantastical approach and do something a little crazy? Rob?
I
Just as Paul clears his mouth to speak. I love it.
I think we can definitely go crazy. I mean, why not? We've kind of introduced a little bit of that into the Battling Battleyard Back Times, the international edition. And we could definitely go a bit crazy. I mean, something I wanted to do is I wanted to go to space with this one, and I think that's to do with like the vehicles that I want to see featured in this that haven't been featured yet. And I think being able to go to space, you can do a lot more with it if you're not just restricted to G.I. Joe and Cobra. You can go a bit more crazy. So that's my initial idea. Is let's just throw it to the wall. You know, let's customize. Let's go crazy. Let's go to the moon. Yeah.
Okay. So that's one vote for
this
reality be damned. Yeah.
Fuck
Paul,
reality.
where do you see yourself on the spectrum?
On the scale.
I kind of feel like we've always been skirting the line of that fantastical side of things. Like a kind of, yeah, so I'm quite happy to put a whole foot into that. Kind of feel like if we could stand, I know this is going to sound very fence-sittery, but if we could find a good balance between obviously the G.I. Joe sort of continuity that we've established already, with like things like Blazing Sand and all that, and have this fantastical side of it brought in. I'm very down for that. And I know we've had conversations in the past that our dear listeners haven't been privy to, but where some of those ideas could be very, very cool. And yeah, let's not limit ourselves with just the G.I. Joe continuity. I mean, the file cards, the rule has always been the file cards are what, you know, sets the tone for these characters, and everything we take from there is G.I. Joburg. It's Playmotion. So yeah, I'm very much on the side of fantastical. I also want to say that I like the idea of space, because one of the ideas that I would like to pitch, which will come in the next few minutes, I'm sure, I think would definitely work with the space setting. So yeah. So
okay.
I'm
then
into
the other
fantastical.
You touched on it, but are we in agreement though that this would form continuity with what we've already done? Like, is this in canon, in universe, or is this its own special thing? Rob?
I oh, you guys. Yeah, I miss you guys so much.
A running gag for this episode. Paul. Rob?
I think people appreciate that we're building something. So I think if we can kind of like expand outwards out of what we've established so far, that could be quite cool.
Nice. It does reward long-time viewers. Anyone who does, I suppose, come back to these things and start stitching together what the intent of the writing was. Like, what world is G.I. Joburg trying to put forth with its G.I. Joe playtimes? Yeah, it's rewarding to have this thing not be a break from that. Absolutely. Paul, you may speak.
Oh, good. Yeah, I think we have a cool continuity, and I think we've created, and yeah, I know this is like very backpatty now, but I really like the way that Cobra Commander comes across in the G.I. Joburg stuff. I really like the way our characters. I really like the way we've characterized our G.I. Joes. I say our G.I. Joes because I feel like we have taken ownership of a lot of these characters within our realm, and I think let's carry on with that. I think I don't think it would be too cruel to do it, and let's maybe keep the audience guessing. I don't know. I like this idea of, having the audience like enjoy, or at least even for myself, being in there and going, wait, is this really in continuity? Like, you guys are not going to pull a Dallas, are you? Kind of vibe. So
I was
kind of
totally
like that
thinking
too.
Dallas.
Like, I don't want it
It
to all
ends,
be a
Chuckles wakes up and
dream.
he's like, "Oh wow, that was a bad hangover."
Exactly. Whoa, 21 tequilas is too many. Like, but I do like the idea of maybe like distorting reality a little bit. So
Cool.
then with
well, I
that,
suppose,
within the continuity is what I mean. Yeah.
well, that's something we need to put a pin in and circle back to, because distorting reality, are we talking multiversal, like a break from reality that will give us license to then have Transformers and aliens and Jedi Knights, like, or are we keeping it in the same, universe, but just adding these elements in that were always perhaps there, waiting in the wings, robots in disguise style? But I before we get into a discussion on that, I want to gather where everyone's head is at in terms of our principal cast. And the initial question I need to ask you both is: do you foresee the storyline focusing more heavily on Joe or more heavily on the baddies? Paul, for a change, don't get used to it.
I'm liking the idea right now of a kind of a spoke system. So having maybe one or two characters from each side, and we're telling their stories in the greater story, so that we can root for, like, for example, if we have Zartan that's dealing with a personal crisis or something, like, I don't know, he's just really on a mission to get himself a box of ho-hos, and all of the shops are sold out of ho-hos or whatever fun treat is out there, to have his quest going on, like he's on a mission to get himself some donuts or something, and all of this other mad stuff is happening around him, and he ends up on the spaceship or something, and then he can't find donuts. You know what I mean? Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to make it a very Cobra-centric story or a very G.I. Joe-centric story. I think it would be cool if we could have a big thing happening and see it through the eyes of a handful of, or not even a handful, like one or two characters specifically, and see it from there.
It sounds more like you want one lead. You want Zartan.
No, I want multiple leads. That's what I'm getting at.
Okay.
Like I hate making this association because this film is so what's the word? I can't think of the word right now. But Crash, the movie Crash, and how
I knew you were gonna say Crash.
yeah, sorry, it's so polarizing, but I do like that spoke style of storytelling, and I also like Tom Clancy did that quite a lot as well. So
Just unpack that a little bit more, though, Paul. Spoke style, what? So, like the spokes on a bicycle wheel? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. And
So
the
the general
characters,
sto-
each character is a spoke, and the
Mhm.
central character is the center of the spokes.
Well, the
The,
plot,
the
like all these characters are moving from the outside of the wheel to the inside of the wheel,
oh,
and
okay.
then yeah, and
And the
so yeah,
conclusion is this nexus, this confluence
yes,
point. Okay,
yeah, yeah.
right.
So you see how, yeah,
So
there
we're
you
seeing
go.
all their stories. Okay, here's where I need to kind of temper our expectations ever so slightly, like because we don't want to waste effort of planning for something that like becomes too lofty. Realistically speaking, with all the other stuff that's on the go, Rob will still have work commitments. Paul, you'll be there for perhaps a very brief window of time in Cape Town before
Like a
having to
week,
go
yeah,
back to Joburg.
yeah,
And of course, we want to be doing things other than like breaking out all the toys and taking them onto location and shooting them. So I shudder to think we'd be able to be actually filming for more than 2 days.
yeah,
So we need something that is almost short story ish in its scope.
yeah.
So
That's why I was thinking the way I am. Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
good.
because
Rob, would you favor, getting back to the initial question, I guess, a GI Joe centric or Cobra centric story?
Well, generally I prefer to see what Joe's doing, so you kind of have like the mystery of what Cobra's intentions are. But I can imagine
Nice.
us having like a couple of plots going on. Like maybe like two, no, not like things that not plots, but like they deal with different aspects of whatever's going on. It's kind of like what Paul's saying. So like maybe a couple Joe ones and then a Cobra one. So you kind of get some idea of what Cobra's doing, but it can also be a misdirect, or it doesn't show you enough of what Cobra's doing. Because I always like that mystery, or like not knowing exactly what Cobra is up to. Focusing
Alright.
more on one side than on both sides.
Then continue that thought and tell me who. Did you have a particular character in mind that you wanted to place at the forefront, or an ensemble of characters, a small group?
Well, I mean, it's an idea that we've been kicking, or at least I've been kicking around forever, and it's just somehow become a thing. I've really wanted to do Quick Kick as the main focus of a story, or at least of a major part of a story, and then obviously I always want Scoop to be doing something as well. So
Quick
I
Kick
think
has been established and Scoop has not. So
he has
this
not.
could
That
be an
is true.
interesting
We
point
could
in
definitely
history.
introduce Scoop somewhere. I always want to introduce Scoop into things. He has to start like doing stuff cool.
I think we've always unofficially kind of believed that Scoop is the one filming things. He's documenting stuff. That's kind of like in my mind my little joke. That's how I know Scoop is in every episode. but
I feel
do
so much
feel
better now.
But for a character that we put a lot of, and when I say we, also you, especially Rob, put a lot of weight and stuff on, I feel like Scoop is a character that does need to get fleshed out by G.I. Joburg. I do feel like we need to establish him in this world and
I
how
think
he
so
is
too.
in
I
our
think that'd be
world.
fantastic. I just think, yeah, and like there's like different aspects of the story going on. So Quick is handling the one part of it. Darren, Scoop takes Quick Kick out to get a shirt and some shoes. Sold. That's our entire storyline. They bought a Virgin rocket into space and they visit the old I don't know, Facebook hotel, and then they kind of have to like buy shoes and stuff while Vipers are trying to stop them.
No
I like
shoes, no
that.
shirt, no spacesuit.
No entry.
Just Quick Kick on his own. He ain't got nothing else. But I think,
And Steve?
that's Stephen, what do you want to do? What's your
Guys,
focus?
I'm on so many different tangents to you that I don't want to derail
Oh,
your
okay.
thoughts.
No, it's not
Yeah.
derailing. It's whatever you introduce is introduced. Paul and I are on
Okay,
different
well,
planes
maybe we
as
can
well.
take a break and do the Steve breakdown. I don't know of
Whoa.
just ideas that I've been cooking up
Where have you been
of
going? Yeah.
I suppose achievable aims. Firstly, like I think I would want to keep it within the strict continuity of G.I. Joburg episodes, so nothing too crazy or too vexing. No Transformers or Jedi Knights. Sorry. But
Interesting.
I think that we've got a few threads that if you were intending to reward long-time viewers and people who have kind of taken this stuff on board and have very pointed questions about like, well, what was that all about? And what were they doing in this section? And like, who was that character that was alluded to and never shown? So to reward those guys and I suppose to just give us a point of departure, I wanted to know if you guys had any thoughts pertaining to the Atlantis factor, our very first Playmotion, which was kind of an evolution happening in real time. Like we were kind of making it up as we went along. So there wasn't really a point to that mission. It was just like, okay, let's do a 5-parter. Each part focuses on a different vehicle toy or base in the case of the 1983 HQ. But let's try and tailor a story that wove them together. Like they moved from the tactical battle platform, duking it out with the moray, then onto the river battle with the whales, then the HQ, then the Sky Striker versus Rattler. Like all of these episodes were mainly motivated by what vehicle was being showcased. But at the end of the day, we have a MacGuffin that is never explained or even seen, a mission that is top secret even to the people on it. What actually was the Atlantis factor? Why was the tactical battle platform being deployed in the first place? What was important strategically about that point? And it set my mind alight because Torpedo disappears for a segment. He goes under the waves and dives down to ostensibly just do recon. But
Diving stuff.
what if he was the secret mission all along? There was something at that location that he was sent down to retrieve, and Cobra knew about it, and they were converging on it themselves. And that's when that battle breaks out between the battle platform and the moray. And Torpedo hands this item off to Shipwreck, because Shipwreck then disappears with Barbecue for a section. So there's this clandestine secret mission that's happening underneath the mission that's already being seen. So it would be kind of like a vignette. What would you call it? Like a meanwhile. You know, when this was happening, this other thing was happening. The secret mission is happening, and that I find is a very achievable little story to tell because we know all those locations. They're all still there, hopefully.
And then
Taken out before.
And the cool thing is like that for me that works with my spoke kind of system where you're telling a piece of the story because we have a convergence point, we have a nexus of events that have happened or that at least the audience or that we as an audience have experienced. So now adding these little pieces to that starts filling in these like gaps and they're interesting stories because that's kind of what makes Star Wars interesting at the moment. At least in TV form, is you've got the whole creation of the rebellion, and I'm not spoiling anything for Andor, but there are things in Andor that are happening in Andor that are like, okay, that's pretty cool. It's not like a major revelation, but it's something I don't know how many people have thought about, but now it adds to it. And now that I have it, I'm like, oh yeah, that adds to the world. I feel like it adds to Star Wars. So like your Torpedo idea, I feel like will add to Atlantis factor. That's kind of where I'm coming from. Like whatever we do, I feel like should add to the intrigue, should make things more interesting. You guys get what I'm saying, right? It's like it's the reason some of us watch the same movie 5 times or 10 times over because there's
but in this
something
case,
in there.
it's answering questions that long-time viewers might still harbor. I don't know if anyone
Exactly.
gives a shit. Maybe a handful of people.
Hey, but it might be a handful of people that have asked those questions. But when the question is answered, you'll get a lot more people going, oh wait, that is a question I should have asked, And
Like, it
here's
just
the
gives us an
answer. How
opportunity
lucky.
to do some underwater action with Torpedo and then some whale action with Shipwreck and Barbecue. That's always good times, man.
Good times.
Maybe we can finally answer that bizarre question of what do these words mean? What is the Atlantis factor beyond it being a 1992 Nintendo game? I have 2 other, I suppose, strings that can be teased. The one being in graduation day, the Corps find out that G.I. Joe is taking delivery of the Tomahawk helicopter, which is brand spanking new and hasn't been seen yet, and is being delivered to this training base where the 1986 group of Joes are happening to be, they're being put through their paces. Yeah, very good. Sci-Fi and the gang are being put through their paces by the Sarge in their G.I. Joe graduation. But they get the ultimate graduation day event by having a tangle with the Corps. Now, who is the inside man who Fox refers to, who tips off the Corps as to the sophisticated brand new helicopter being rolled out and where it's going to be deployed and how exactly to steal it from these rawhide recruits? Little did they know that Sarge and the boys would whoop their asses. Anyway, so there's perhaps a spy story to be told there, maybe. And then finally, and this relates to our, I suppose, most recent Renegade saga, where we finally have an introduction to Storm Shadow. Of course, he's
Which you and I have been
incognito
chatting
the whole
about.
time.
Yeah.
Well, yes, we want to do him properly, do him right. Maybe build to a point where he has the conversation or the conflict, the final conflict with Cobra Commander. Because if you think about it, in the comic book series, Storm Shadow, he has a thirst for knowledge. He wants to find out his uncle's killer, and Cobra Commander is withholding that information and says, if you do this for me, then I will let you know what you enlisted in Cobra in the first place to find out. But we never get that payoff because Storm Shadow saves Billy from incarceration and certain death or brainwashing. I think he was strapped to the scanner. Anyways, they escape and then he turns over a new leaf. So he never gets that conflict resolved with the Cobra Commander. Like, he never has that moment where they confront each other and he's like finally throwing down the gauntlet, like, Commander, it's time. Either you tell me what I want to know, or one of us is not leaving this room alive. So there's an interesting story to be told there. Anyway, that's it for me. That's my kind of in continuity G.I. Joburg Playmotion saga like stuff that I'm bringing to the table. However, we have it defined. We need to shoot it. Let's go to space.
And so, I'm glad you brought space up. Carry on.
Well, yeah. I dabbled with the idea of doing the Defiant as the kind of the centerpiece of a Playmotion before, and I mean that still, I suppose, is a shelved script. We could still do Red Glare. Paul, you're familiar with Red Glare. This was a collaboration with Troy Smith.
Troy, yeah.
And because of the world becoming bloody plague zone, we could not complete it. I had plans to shoot it and just never got back to South Africa. So it's possible to pick up where we left off. But I almost feel like things have moved on since then.
I just want to take 2 seconds just quickly to shout out to these beautiful people who have gotten up early in the morning. So Darren Cobb, we saw you, man. And thank you. Yes, Andor does rule. Hey, Darren. What's up, Joe Hunter 73? Good early morning, gents. 11 o'clock can be an early morning for me on a Sunday as well, so I feel you. And
like 4
a.m. And MC DJ ACDC. Hello. Haven't seen you in the chats. Saw you so briefly in the chats last time. So it's good to have you here, dude. Cool, man. So anyway, okay. So here's the thing. With the whole space vibe, right? And with prepping for this episode and just thinking of like characters that I would like to see in a Playmotion at some point. I would really like to see this man over here, good old Recoil, because I feel like there's a story that needs to. I feel like Recoil is an interesting character, and I think he gets absolutely no time in any light, spotlight and or other. And I feel like he could be an interesting piece, to connect certain things in the story because he is a long range recon. He's a lerp, and he's got the gun chuckers. And I just feel like there's something there that could be told with this dude. I don't know. I want to use this guy for something. I just think it could be fun. And then, but to go with the space theme, well, of course, I don't want to look further than these bad boys, the Mega Marines.
The Mega Marines.
Whoa.
This, if people want to say that we are like, making a Playmotion version of Aliens or whatever, so be it, because these toys were made for that. And the cool thing is that within G.I. Joburg, one of us has, I don't know about you guys, but I've got that cool Monster Viper. I got Bio Viper. And I suppose I should tell you guys now, I've got Monster Viper on the way. Monstro Viper. My local dude, Skulk, he actually found one, asked me if I wanted it, and it's like really cheap. So I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to get it before I get to Cape Town, but if I do, then at least we have 2 Monstro Vipers. If not for this Playmotion, at least we've got them. So anyway.
So, do you want to do Aliens with G.I. Joe?
I would like to do an homage, or at least a nod to Aliens in a small way. When we were talking about going fantastical, I know you mentioned Jedi, like space wizards and Transformers, but in my mind, I was like, what could I find in the Cobra G.I. Joe mythos that could sort of be representative of the alien? And I love the idea of, I mean, this is like such a basic story or such a basic thread or whatever, but so we're on the Defiant and we discover a Cobra spaceship, but it's like derelict. There's no signs of life or anything on it. And the Joe team goes to investigate, and the whole thing is full of like bats and monster vipers and unhappiness. And yeah, and like it's like a fight to get out of there, to survive before this thing gets pulled into the gravitational pull of like the sun or Earth or something. So they have
it's
to
a little
like,
bit of Event Horizon. Just doing
Yeah.
a bit of a recast here. Okay, so Gung Ho is Apone. I reckon Scoop is Burke, the company man, sent there to document everything for some shady, nefarious purpose. The Paul Reiser character. I reckon Quick Kick is Newt. He's already on the Cobra's vessel. He was captured and has been interred there for some time. And he's absolutely like shell-shocked, dirty, barefoot, of course. He's been surviving, living in like air vents for the last couple of weeks.
and eating frozen fudgies.
And he's observed the Cobra crew getting absolutely massacred by monster vipers and bats gone haywire. Who's Ripley? Who's our hero character? Who's going to save the day? You obviously, Rob wants it to be Scoop, but I've already pinned you as the bad guy, dude.
Well, I kind of. It's cool that you kind of pinned Scoop as Burke, because I kind of feel like Scoop could also be the Ripley of the story. Because Scoop is the yeah, but think about it. Scoop is the company man, okay? He's been sent with G.I. Joe because there are powers that be that that have a special interest in this mission, and so they've sent Scoop to go and do the thing. So Scoop has still got that sort of duality to him, like he's actually working for somebody else, but in this finds camaraderie with the other dudes, but then also, I mean, I don't want to kill off everybody or spoil anything, but Scoop could also in a weird way be our final goal. He could be the one who survives against all odds. Like maybe he gets separated from the rest of the team. Like they're like, yeah, we've got the dude, we're gonna evac now, like cool, bring it around, bring the little spaceship around, and we're like gonna get out, and then all of a sudden something happens with the airlock, and then Gung Ho and all of these guys are like, they get sucked into the into the rescue ship, and they're like, "Oh no, we can't leave Scoop and Quick Kick behind." And then it's all about Quick Kick and Scoop that have to survive on this, and that's where Scoop stops being a company man and starts towing the GI Joe line. Something, I don't know, like that could be. So it's kind of Ripley, but also not Ripley in a weird way.
Sounds
You
to
know?
me, Paul, like you need to hurry up and get a Mirage and a clutch for your
Oh,
Mega Marines
and hell
collection.
yeah,
Yeah, because
hell yeah.
time's a
So-
ticking, baby.
So I like the idea of revisiting stuff that we've done before, like filling in the gaps, as it were, from Atlantis Factor, but as flashbacks rather than a full-on prequel play motion, because I feel like prequels are overdone. So what those gaps in between those parts in Atlantis Factor, what that MacGuffin was, what those little missions were that those characters are going on, should inform whatever we're now doing in this current play motion. So we have to feature Torpedo and Shipwreck and Barbecue and the new characters, and this is why they're going to space, say. Because
Rob, thank
whatever
you.
these things
I
in
think
Atlantis
you're
Factor-
being overly diplomatic because you want to like harmonize my early idea with what we're doing.
No,
but
I
I think don't worry about it, man. Leave that stuff.
No. I
Shelve
like
it.
the
It'll be
idea
for
that
another time.
I like the idea that things link together, and I think
And
we
I
do
like the
if-
idea that if we're shooting the interior of a spaceship, we don't have to go on location. We can stay indoors and shoot late at night, which makes
No,
things a hell of a
absolutely,
lot
but I think
easier.
then having but the flashback sequences will be the shorter ones because we're flashing back to them filling in the gaps of what is happening on this space station or this whatever in space, and they're like, this is the ramifications of the Atlantis Factor. This is what is affecting what is going on right now and why we need to retrieve this, because in the end Cobra did win it. They did get the Atlantis Factor, even though it seemed like we won the day.
Okay.
And
Look, I'm
now
going to say that
comes
is
back.
that's gravy. That's kind of a lofty prize. If we have the opportunity to add all that extra backstory, great. But just focusing on the immediate kind of A plot.
Yeah.
My question to you, gents, is so G.I. Joburg's play motions of late have become increasingly more cinematic of necessity. I am shooting alone. I have to be in very tight close up. I have to manipulate things one at a time, so there are lots of cuts. And I almost want to get away from that because with the three of us there, we can have the most amazing like realization of one of us holding a camera and the other two actually playing. I'm talking
is
hands in the
amazing.
shot. I'm talking full bodies in the shot. Like, take us back to an earlier time where it didn't matter, when we weren't trying to make cinema with toys. Like, there's something quite energetic, and I think it translates to a more enjoyable filming experience, but also watching experience. I think we're at our best when these toys are actually being physically like played with instead of trying to make them into little actors. So my
Yeah.
question to you guys is, within this space scene, the setting, is there a way for us to have a big battle where we have vehicles entering frame, dogfights, explosions, epic stuff that require 3 sets of hands?
You have a Rolling Thunder, right?
I do.
What?
Sorry,
Of
Rob.
course he does. He has at least one Rolling Thunder. I know.
Right?
I was thinking, no, I mean, like to have big things, because I think big things is important because we're all there. Somehow the station crash lands on Earth, and then we have to like attack it with tons of vehicles and stuff.
So that's exact. Oh, and this from Darren Cobb. I love this. Cover girl. The cover girl's like, Hudson. Oh, Hudson. This little Joe survived longer than that with no shirt and no footwear. How did she even get here?
He's
Lordy.
he's redoing the entire plot of Aliens in our comment section right now.
It's so cute. Thanks, Darren. So Rob, to add to that, because we're on like a similar line there. So that's why I asked about the Rolling Thunder. The big ground battle could be Cobra trying to stop G.I. Joe from from shooting down that spaceship. Because it can't be shot down by the Defiant for some reason. So they opt to then destroy it with the rolling thunder by, doing some kind of transorbital missile or whatever, to shoot this thing before it enters, and hopefully it burns out in the atmosphere, before it gets to Earth, because it could be bad. It could be like really, really bad, whatever. Maybe the Atlantis factor is on there, and it's just like incredibly, I don't know, explosive or something. You know what? I'm spitballing, okay? But that could be the ground mission. That could be the big, bring out all of your toys, have the big epic battle to try and stop the Rolling Thunder from shooting that thing, and then the G.I. Joe mission is trying to get the Rolling Thunder. So we got all that tension and that drama and all that happening, and at least that's where my mind is. Otherwise,
But then that contradicts it being kind of a derelict Cobra vessel that that's got this SOS on repeat, that's automated, and GI Joe is dispatched to the start of this is a bit of a slow burn. It's a bit of a
Yes.
cold open to my mind. Like, unless you have a completely unrelated, almost Bond movie opening big battle, and then we cut to space, so they're only tangentially linked. Maybe Gung Ho and the boys are involved in some major fracas with Cobra, and then Duke steps off the plane. He's like, "Gung Ho and your Mega Marine team, report back to the Defiant launch pad. We've got a hot mission for you." Like, that could be one way of having our cake and eating it. Like having one big blowout on location, maybe in the dunes. God, to Atlantis. I know you love that, Rob. It's hot as hell out there. Your phone will melt. Like, everything overheats.
Celia's gonna love it because
You have to keep our phones in like a cooler box or something, so that as the first one burns out, we swap to the next one.
Maybe we switch to the beach then, because I'm dying to do some more underwater action. Maybe, pit the Bug and Hammerhead against once again, the Mega Marines team. Why are they the Mega Marines if they don't ever do a bloody beach landing? Come on. And I know that they're all army. I mean, Clutch's army. I think Blastoff and Mirage are army as well. So the only real Marine is Gung Ho. But anyway, whatever.
Army.
But they still mega. They still do mega stuff.
Mega.
They're mega. Yeah. Okay, so that's my pitch. Rob, how do you fall between these two?
I think obviously the main plot, because my idea was just the thing comes crashing down, we do the thing at the end, like a huge, gigantic explosion-y, attacking thing with thousands of vehicles. That's where I was coming from, where somehow the station comes down, but that also feeds into what Paul is saying, is where they are initially trying to stop the Rolling Thunder from shooting this thing down. Because now Cobra is aware of what's going on, so at some point they become aware of this, what's going on, and then that is the huge battle at the end. But what you could also do is that the battle at the start is that prequel material, is that previously on G.I. Joe, where you're filling in those gaps, but it's a big battle using the characters from Atlantis Factor.
Rob is trying so desperately to utilize absolutely every idea that's being tabled.
But I love it.
I've written it all down. Like, how do we fit Storm Shadow and Cobra Command into this here? Like, how do we revive your Red Glare idea? How do we make
absolutely nothing is wasted
all at once?
Okay, cool.
But,
as I say, guys, this is a throw everything at the wall and we chip away at it later.
You can see where I'm coming from. I'm just trying to fit everything together, but I can also understand how trying to make it all fit together can also be a bit too much. But definitely a battle.
In basically a weekend's worth of shooting.
But I think, we'll make it work. We just need to know the time that when it's like creating an actual shoot. You can't.
Oh yeah.
The planning period. We come up with the script. We come up with the shots that we need, or the locations that we need to do it at. This is what we've always done.
We can even storyboard a little bit. They could just be scams, but we can even storyboard how we want some shots to look. Not major.
You have absolutely nothing else going on in your life right now, Paul. You can do some noodlings for us.
No, we're just gonna do we always do. Steven shoot it from every single angle possible. We do it 50 times, and then
Yeah, but my thinking is I'm taking the week off, right?
We fixed it.
I'm taking that week off to be there.
taking
So
an
you know
entire
what?
week
I'm gonna
off.
be sitting there in your lounge, and we'll be talking about these ideas, and I can
Playing
just
games with
scamp this
Elliot.
stuff. Playing games with Elliot, yeah.
Hell
Like we should get some Nerf guns,
Heavens.
cheap ones, the knockoffs.
Completely
Okay,
off
so
topic.
from what I can gather, we've got 3 big action beats. We've got our cold open, where the team gets called in and then briefed and then sent to the stars. Then our middle action beat is this shit's out of control. We need to blow this thing up, send up a missile from the Rolling Thunder, and Cobra intercept that. Cobra attack the Rolling Thunder. So there's a land battle, there's a sky battle as Cobra's stiletto craft try and intercept this massive ICBM. And maybe even some jet battles happening around, because G.I. Joe, man, red and blue lasers for days. Then
Oh,
our
yeah.
final action beat is when this thing returns to Earth. Does it come down safely?
You know what?
Firstly, on a practical note, what are we using as a Cobra spaceship? I assume there'll be external shots. I don't got the time to fabricate something the size of the flag or larger. What are we doing here?
Practically speaking. Whoa, what is this thing?
Space Terradrome.
It's
I'm
a
joking.
machine filmed in real close up. Yeah. Jeez.
Maybe, yeah, shit. Maybe I need
Joe
to try
Hunter answers with the pogo. Yeah,
Hell
the
yeah.
pogo sort of standing in. Well, I'm putting words in your mouth, Joe Hunter, but would the pogo be standing in for a much larger thing? So it's like
yeah, then we have to put Greeblies on it.
really
Super pogo.
representative. That's very cool. Oh, the super pogo. But serious question. I mean, like, I'm so happy to make it as crappy as possible. Like, just cobbled together styrofoam pieces, just filmed in against a black sheet, because
That's essentially what they did with Alien, with that weird ass ship that the Ripley and them were on. It was like
Oh,
a
the
flying
Nostromo.
like city, essentially. I mean, it was.
Yeah.
It's the most ridiculous,
Oh, the Sulaco.
unspaceshipy spaceship I've ever seen, but it makes so much sense at the same time.
no, the Sulaco was from Aliens.
Aliens. Yeah, so I wasn't sure which
Whereas
one you were
the
referring
Nostromo,
to. The Nostromo.
yeah, it absolutely is just like
Yeah, it's just
model
like a city.
kits
It's like a
stuck
floating.
together.
Yeah, it's
Stuck
like
to
a
paper
floating
cups
barge in
and stuff.
space with like these giant, like like.
I could
factories
Greebly
on the
that.
back.
I could scratch build that. It won't be very big. We just have to shoot it big, but I can make it. I can do that. Why not? It'll be difficult to get like a giant cobra head on there, for example, like a giant
Oh.
snake motif.
Oh, guys,
Yeah.
easy. The Storiers base. The
Oh, the
Tomy
gold
Storiers
thing.
base could finally see use as a Cobra orbital space station.
You could actually do
Hey.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could actually. Yeah.
I mean, it
Because
looks
you
better
have
as a
one.
terrestrial thing, but that's one way of doing it. I mean, it certainly has a cool like docking bay entrance, and if we have a miniaturized stand-in for the Defiant, or maybe, I hate to open the door to this, but maybe this is an opportunity for a bit of compositing work. Like
Ooh.
G.I. Joburg Playmotion goes special effectsy, but like to just take a still of the Defiant and composite
And
it
move it
into it.
across.
Yeah, just put it into this, just to set up the sense of scale.
If
I
you've
don't
got I don't want to have that super technical discussion now because I feel like we're getting into the nitty gritty there.
Boring.
But it can be done. It can be done. I have software for that. So it can
Question
be done.
from Darren: is it essential to actually launch the Defiant? I'm gonna say yes, because how else is G.I. Joburg? How else is G.I. Joe going to get up there? So I'm gonna need some more intel out of you, man. What do you mean?
Well, is it essential to see it launched? I think
No,
is maybe
absolutely
what
not. I think in keeping with the bare bones nature of these productions, actually doing a launch sequence with the Defiant might be a little taxing. Look,
So no Defiant Pogo battle from previous episode then. I mean from
but think
from
about
previous
this, and
podcast
I
episode.
know you didn't want to get too technical, Paul, but like it just occurred to me that with flat screen TVs the size that they are, it might be possible to do some rear projection. All you need is one shot of like any lunar launch or satellite launch or rocket launch where you've got that camera looking down at the
Yes.
plume of jet
With a giant
jet
hand.
trail. And no, what you just put the Defiant in front of where the actual boosters are in that shot, and you've just got the edge of frame of the Earth kind of falling away.
And I got fancy lights, so I can light it up nicely in the foreground as well, so that it'll kind of balance
Well, that's
out.
nice, Paul. Are you planning on taking them down in your
Yes,
car?
totally. Dude, these
Oh,
things
my
fit in
word.
my pocket.
Wow.
And
They're
Joe Hunter,
freaking amazing.
wonderful advice and very much in the style of G.I. Joburg Playmotion. He says just show an in-cockpit launch, shaking and rattling. And
We're gonna
I
Star
suppose,
Trek it.
yeah, you can pass light sources past the cockpit to just kind of do close-ups on the astronauts' faces and have, that incredible shake and noise.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because I think
look-
if we are going to have the Defiant, you have to at least. I mean, you don't have to show the entire thing, but we have to show at least some shots of it, of that entire bulky thing moving. Like the blue gantries, and it kind of cranking into position. I think that somewhere in the thing should be that, because that is some of the majesty of what makes the Defiant so awe-inspiring. Is how big this entire thing is. And being able to see, the guys kind of like walking around at the bottom of I think that's something that needs to be included. If you're gonna have the Defiant and the Crusader in there, you have to show some of that, the majesty of it being launched.
Yeah.
Ooh, I should get some dry ice. Just get some atmosphere going.
I was thinking the
Ooh.
same thing. I also want to get one of those spray cans that, when you, because I want to frost up glass with it, so that it would be so cool, like in an opening shot, to have like this glass that's frosted up and catching a bit of lens flare as we see the Defiant like shoot past or something.
I'm
You know?
loving Dustin's suggestion. He's just entered chat. He's having us go back to the beach. Will the Defiant land on the flag? We're going back to the beach, Stephen. Put your wetsuit on. I hope it still fits.
Oh, man. Well, part of me
Watch out
thinks
for
it'd be a
sharks.
damn shame if we didn't set the flag sailing again. But that's a whole production in and of itself, boys. My
Yeah.
word.
Well, even
No,
if
I
we can
think-
do it in the pool or something, like a big thing of water, we don't have to go to the ocean necessarily. As long as you can crop it so that we can see it's swimming, but we can still. I think landing the
No.
Defiant on the flag is such a cool
I-
idea.
We can absolutely do that. It's a worthy thing to do. And also, man, we can go to our original location, Rob, depending on the tides, and have an
It could be much
unobstructed
better, yeah.
field of ocean. Field of view. I don't know. Instead of having the bloody
No
rocky
people.
promontory,
Best.
we'll
can
have,
have a nice horizon.
the flag will appear at least to be on the open seas. And maybe our final action beat then is G.I. Joe blow this thing up in space, get whatever they needed to get from it, and they are making their escape in the Defiant, heading through the atmosphere, being harassed by pogos and stilettos, because Cobra does not want G.I. Joe to have whatever MacGuffin it is that they stole from the stricken
Exactly.
Cobra ship. And so our final action beat, and largest of all, is an aerial battle raging above the flag as the Defiant
Wow.
pulls in,
I
which
like
is
that.
reminiscent of the finale of the Special Missions comic book series.
Yes.
So that
I do
isn't-
recall seeing panels of that. So yeah.
That is finally a piece of action where all three of us will be essential.
Yeah.
Because aerial combat, in order to get the distance you need from one another, you both have to be manipulating craft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, yeah, I've tried doing dogfights with a plane in each hand. It looks ridiculous, never works. And I think those of us who attempted it with Seconds to Midnight found that out pretty quickly as well.
Unless you put your camera on the floor.
Nah.
There are tricks. There are tricks. There are always
There
tricks.
are tricks, but when you have three
But
people, it's so much
The
easier.
best and
It's-
most fun thing to do is to have one guy hold the Sky Striker, the other hold the Night Raven, and the third is on chase cam. And you just get that kinetic, real. Ah, it's good, man. Rob, do you remember filming Atlantis Factor and we just dogfighted? We literally
Yeah,
just
we
flew
did.
around and our I'll fix it in post, or I'll make sense of it in post. Let's just have action. And
As long as we have a
similarly,
ton of
again with Blood in the Water, the final chapter of that, where we had the Rattler versus the Dragonfly, where we were losing the light. We couldn't really do the story beats that we'd planned. So it was just like, okay, I'm going to set the camera down. We're just going to fly around, and whatever happens, happens, man. Just try and fly believably, and then we'll swap. Like, you then take the Dragonfly, and I take the Rattler, and trade places. And eventually out of that, we kind of can stitch
It worked. It
together.
worked in the end.
Fly casual, but not too casual. Yeah.
That's the beauty of it. So I wanted to recapture that magic, because it's
Well,
great fun to do, man. And Paul, yeah, you can think back to the Condor battle that we shot, which
Oh,
also
hell
is
yeah.
kind of similar.
Oh shit! You just
Yeah,
reminded
did
me
you-
of something.
Did you forget?
No,
Oh,
no, no.
be
I didn't
reminded.
forget that at all. No, no, no.
Reminisce
Dude,
for us.
I had a dream this morning that I was in a store and they had believe it or not, Minton box wall-to-wall condors in the one section of this toy shop. They had condors in a
I
box.
have that dream all the
And-
time. I want to kill
and
myself
you just triggered,
afterwards.
and you just triggered this because that's what I woke up to this morning. I was like, oh wow, condors in a toy shop somewhere in America. You know. So anyway, yes, dude, I totally remember shooting that. That was a lot of fun. That was great fun. And I'd like to do it. It's going to be even better now because I'll have a day off as opposed to, you know, having work things get in my way. So, and also it bears noting that when we can just shoot like that, it goes faster, which means we can do more. Because when we have to use trickery takes time. It takes time to figure out. It takes time to get right. You know, you have to nail it. You know, I learned that when I was shooting my Seconds to Midnight stuff with Celia at the park. I mean, I thought, okay, cool, this will just take 2 hours, but it took like 4 hours for me to get some of that footage, because it just wasn't working.
Throw a flag with a floaty base and a location and a Defiant and all the Cobra and Joe jets we possess into the mix, and you're looking at very easily the entire day. So this is the absolute like blowout pitch. We're going to whittle down at this. Maybe it'll find its way. All of these ideas will find its way into one Playmotion, but this is, if I do say so myself, gold. And I would love to bring this to the screen at some stage. Maybe we'll only be able to film a portion of it. Maybe we'll just go with the big action beats. And then, Paul, once you have had to love and leave us, Rob and I can whittle away at the after dark spaceship interior stuff.
Yeah.
So even if we just do a big old space/aerial dogfight and ultimately the flag playing host to the Defiant, my word, how does that even work?
I don't know, man.
Deploy the drag chutes, activate retro rockets. I mean, hectic.
But I love shooting interior shots. I love that whole tight interior thing. That's something I'm very excited about doing personally.
Realistically, Paul,
I know. I don't know. We don't know. I mean,
we
we're spitballing. You know, we're spitballing now, and we're throwing all these ideas, and then we're going to go through the art of reduction to see what exactly we are going to do, and then we can start planning a schedule and figuring it out. But the nice thing about doing interior shots is I don't necessarily have to do them there either. You know, we can plan them and go through we can block them in at your place, for example, and then I can shoot them here if I need to. But either way, I'm bringing my 2 little cool lights, and I really, really urge you to get one of these or 2 of these for yourself. They are magical. I can't believe how great these damn lights are. They're amazing, and you can just put them in your pocket. They're tiny, but because they just will help so much with the atmosphere. But then again, now we're getting into the technical side of this production. But yeah, I think we've got some freaking cool ideas and some cool sequences. And just on that note, guys, are there any other characters that you want to explore and have fun with in this? Like, are there characters that we haven't showcased in a Playmotion before that you really want to maybe have in this one, or introduce in this one, or flesh out in this story at all?
Well, I think I made
no,
it pretty
the link
obvious.
didn't
I went
work.
quick kick and scoop. those are the guys that I want out there. I can't think of anyone else specifically right now, but I think those are the main ones that I want to see in there. And then like bring back characters, like especially for the cold open, as it were. Like Torpedo and Shipwreck and Barbecue. I think for the Atlantis Factor tie-in.
Oh, Rob, bless you, boy. Now, I'm quite keen on there being a principal villain. I think the captain of the stricken Cobra vessel somehow had a hand in its ultimate being taken over by bio vipers, monster vipers, and bats. And whoever that might be it an established Cobra character or a custom new character, I want to open to the listeners. If you are checking out the YouTube version, or even if you are listening to us on Podbean or iTunes or whatever podcatcher, head to the YouTube comment section for this video, episode 271, Planning a Playmotion. Scroll into the comment section and let us know your idea of who could be masterminding this. Who is our big boss battle? Because I think we do need to have a lead baddie. That's what's sorely lacking at this point. And Paul has just brought up an image of Road Pig. I guess it could be Road Pig's time to shine.
He's a mastermind for sure.
Who gave Road Pig the keys to the fucking space station? They should be shot. But yeah, it's interesting. That does open an avenue and a line of thoughts. And also the greater question of how this thing could be put together. I'd be dying to know anyone's input at this stage. If you are a fan of G.I. Joburg Playmotions, here's your opportunity to weigh in on a project that's in the works that could very well be coming out in the new year. So help us shape this thing. I'd be very grateful to hear your thoughts.
I've just slammed up an image of the Mega Marines catalog from the back of the packaging. We've got Gung Ho, Clutch, the Mega Viper, Mirage, Blastoff, et al. But we have the Monster Blaster APC, and I believe you own one of those, Steve, which I'm dying to play with, by the way.
It does not fit into the Defiant hold, unfortunately. But hey, it does.
But it
mass shift it.
Yeah, I would love. That's one sequence from Aliens. I'd love to bring into this. Is this APC, going through like being smashing against walls, and like you got Bio Viper on there going with its action, bang, 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 whatever. Anyway, it could be like a shit ton of fun, man. Sorry. Wow. I just saw the picture now because I did upload it to put it onto this chat, and I was just like, Also, maybe we can give this guy a chance to shine as well. Old Sci-Fi.
Who's that?
Old Sci-Fi can use his skills. I mean, like a laser trooper. Yeah, well, he's shiny, he's space-like, he's got a laser. I just feel like there's something cool that can be done with Old Sci-Fi here as well. These are just things I preloaded for the show, and just got me thinking of stuff. I mean, guys, I'm gonna put up an image now of Flint, but from the Eco Warriors.
Wow.
And Rob,
this has got me thinking.
Yep, because I have, in my memory of shows and planning episodes and stuff, you had come up with an idea for Eco Warriors a long, long time ago, and I also feel like some point.
I don't remember.
Yeah, it was for an episode. Yeah, Rob, you might still have it. Yeah,
I must have been serious, I guess.
It wasn't for a Playmotion. It wasn't for a Playmotion. It was actually, this was a little bit pre-Playmotion. It was for a podcast episode about the Eco Warriors, and I think we were trying to find ways to make them plausible or something in that vein. I can't remember all the details, but I know that somewhere in the back of your head is a good Eco Warriors story somewhere there. So I just wanted to bring these guys up just for the inspiration in the chat. I don't think that we need to try and shoehorn Eco Warriors into this production.
Okay,
but it would be cool to think.
Eco Warriors in this is what you're saying. I get it. Okay.
And oh yes, a Mindbender might definitely make appearance in this show. But that's just in response to Darren Cobb it really has to be Dr. Mindbender. He was his answer to who's the big bad, just so we can get Paul's Mindbender voice. There was something I wanted to mention.
Road Pig in Space sounds fantastic. I think what you could have, if you want to kind of go very much the aliens route, is actually it's Quick Kick and Road Pig that are trapped on the space station together, and they've formed a very uneasy alliance to kind of like stay alive. Because I mean, I think we have said before, Road Pig is kind of not complex, but he has like issues.
Multiple personality disorder. Yeah.
Where I mean, it could land up where he actually does end up being able to work with a Joe for an extended period of time, depending on the situation. So we could have Road Pig in there actually, and they're both topless. That's kind of cool.
That and it's kind of random as well. Like you've got this, that adds a random element that makes it difficult and scary for the character involved, for the viewers. That could be quite cool, actually. I mean, I put Road Pig up there because I'm just like, we haven't had Road Pig.
Sure.
You're a master of chaos. Jeepers.
He's just giving me more things I got to keep trying to keep track of to add in.
Oh, well, good luck with this one, Paul. Rob, it'll have you listening to an old episode of G.I. Joburg, because Andrew's given us an idea to shoot the shoot a Playmotion around the Halloween podcast, where we spoke about 3 Vipers trying to escape the landlocked Cobra freighter, the Arbco Star. We all role played with Cujo. Would make for a cool short film.
What if the Arbco
they encounter a zombified Serpentor? Things got interesting.
What if the Arbco Star is the derelict spaceship?
That's a cool name, huh?
Oh, Arbco Star.
And what if? Yeah, I don't want to say too much because we have an audience listening, and we do want to have
everyone is listening back.
We do want to surprise people, and we also want to be very careful. Well, at least I'm trying to be careful not to lead anybody's expectations and to get them to create very, very grand scenarios that we may or may not be able to achieve. But because I'd hate to disappoint people. I don't want to have Transformers the movie on our hands here. You know what I mean? Speaking of Transformers the movie, Steve, you mentioned Space Wizards and Transformers earlier, and then we were talking about the Atlantis factor. And I can't help but feel like the Atlantis factor could be a space bridge, a thing that could open up a space bridge, or it generates a black hole or something to that effect. So it'd be really funny if the ship crashes, this thing activates, and all of a sudden Optimus is like, transform and move out or roll out, or something. That could be interesting. I'm not saying it has to happen. I'm just saying that would be left field. That would be a great way to introduce the Transformers into this universe.
Darren estimates that we're probably looking at about a 120 to 130 mil budget.
Sounds about right.
We're making Dune, guys.
And we'd have to steal a fair number of Disney's VFX artists, because I believe they've got an absolute stranglehold on the industry now. It's a serious meltdown in visual effects artistry, because everyone is overtaxed by the demands of Disney. Real problems, man. Real problems require real guerrilla filmmaking solutions.
Guys,
just film your toys again.
Or just do it physically, do it practically. Like you can probably save a lot of money doing things practically.
Yeah.
I think we've got a lot of good stuff to go here, guys. I think we're gonna put a pin in this. Rob's got his copious notes that we'll be combing through, and watch this space. It might amount to some way, shape, or form of what we've discussed here. It might be something completely different and out of left field.
Stephen will just go like, "I like your ideas, guys, but this is what we're going with," and then we'll be like, "Okay, I guess that's what we're doing."
Look, we do have 2 crossover Transformers. Thank you, Mark, for reminding us in the chats.
True, actually.
That does tip us off to megabee integrating the robots in disguise into the universe. But I don't know, man. I've got a bad feeling that it's a 2 and done situation from Hasbro. I think Mega Hiss and Bumble Striker might be it.
Now they're like, that's
the important thing is that whatever we do, we don't put Duke in a coma, and we certainly don't kill Optimus Prime, and we should be okay. should be.
No, for sure. You know, as long
Mhm.
as
And
the
let's not
spots are
bulk
on
up the
there.
Ninja Turtles too much. That way, at least that way we know we're gonna tick some boxes. No, I kid. I'm kind of hesitant to go crossover Transformers GI Joe, only because I don't feel. I feel like our collective imaginations would come up with great ideas for the Transformers as well in a Playmotion format. But I don't think we own enough Transformers to give it the diversity that it requires. Or maybe we
Well,
do,
certainly
or
not
maybe
modern
we
Transformers that can actually pose. I mean, I've got plenty of bricks that we can
exactly.
but the bricks make sense with O-ring figures.
They
Not
do
so?
actually. Yeah, no,
They
I agree.
both
They do.
have a vintage feel. They would just require a bit of forced perspective to get the scaling right.
I also
Anyway,
anyway. I
anyway,
just don't know. I just don't want to
let's
go down that quagmire because
look.
it can get
I'd be curious
intense.
to gauge like what our viewers think of that now, because we once held a vote on the subject.
Mm,
Should we do a crossover with the Transformers? And it was voted down quite heavily. I think people who see the play motions want to see strict GI Joe
of course.
action, um, done right. And maybe it's because we've been starved of that sort of thing. Maybe
Mm.
because they keep getting it wrong cinematically, and the animated series are hit or miss.
So
So
Joburg's got to step in and fix it.
we gotta keep it real, man. No,
But
no
guys,
Ewoks here.
but guys, let's
Alright.
just be fair. The only reason they threw GI Joes into Transformers in the comic books in the first place was because GI Joe as a comic book wasn't strong enough to carry its own narrative properly. And Tom Shirley's
Sure.
book proves that because that took it to the extreme other direction and made it super super awesome, you know. Whereas the IDW or the Devil's Due stuff, and to greater or lesser extent the IDW stuff, yeah, they're enjoyable reads and they're fun and everything, but I kind of feel like they just tacked it on to make G.I. Joe spicy, or, they tried to McGriddle it, just make it more interesting than what it already is, because what it is isn't actually wasn't that interesting at the time. So I kind of feel like we only need to, we can bring Transformers in when we can't write any good stories anymore. Oh, I said that! Boom, mic drop.
All right. I'm moving the agenda on, guys. It's time for a little bit of post box, the pit action. I've got a follow up story to our previous episode where we spoke about the G.I. Joe hover strike. Does everyone remember the G.I. Joe hover strike? 'Cause I
It's the
certainly
best
do.
vehicle in the G.I. Joe arsenal. It's
How
absolutely
can you
incredible.
forget it? So, our man on the ground, Mr. Bart Simon, who is actually a G.I. Joe completist, some Air Devon shit up in here. But he has this toy and
Oh,
tried to take it out for a test drive. Now, bear in mind, this toy is 20 years old now. He left it
Only.
charging overnight, and after a full night's worth of charge, he tested the batteries. They were full, but the engine just couldn't crank up enough juice to move this thing at all. Total dud.
No.
The fans spun. They made a hell of a loud noise. But yeah, as far as actually getting to have any maneuverability or RC feature, forget about it. He did show me some pictures which were enlightening. It turns out this thing doesn't have any cheat wheels underneath. So it literally was intended to lift itself and manipulate itself purely with air power, with the fans. So that's impressive on one hand, or I should say it's ambitious on one hand, and would have been impressive if it actually worked. I guess the years haven't been kind to this thing, but maybe it never really worked that well, and that's why it's kind of languished in
I
obscurity.
think it's a battery thing. Like,
Okay, just
it's a
weak.
lot of juice. It needs a more powerful battery in the most.
Yeah, and it was probably a pretty cheaply made thing to begin with,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
not a very successful hovercraft. And I've got another bit of a post box, the pit. This one is a question from a listener, and I'll try and find it. Oh dear. The thing about mobile phones, the second you look away, it goes away. Ah,
Yep.
yes. Gerald11_11 on Instagram. He had a question for us, actually. He says, I'm a huge fan. You guys have literally inspired me to reconnect with my inner child, and that has reignited my spiritual path and a lot of other things, but that is another story.
Hmm.
I wanted a
Wow.
bit of guidance. I saw a video a few years ago of Steve's top 10 modern figures. In that video, Steve had a modern Scarlet, but modified to fix the limited leg movement that the figure has. Is that a difficult process? I think I have the tools that I need. I just want to work on the early 25th Baroness as well. Such a beautiful sculpt and could be so much more if it had better leg movement. Can you guys share a few tips before I permanently modify the two figures? I know I've done this fix before. Paul, have you ever trimmed
I
a lady
I
crotch?
I haven't trimmed the lady crotch on my Scarlet, purely because as a bit of a collector, I didn't want to damage the figure.
Good.
You don't wanna make it
I'm a bit more
playable.
precious about it. Yeah,
You're too precious, Paul.
I just
Rob,
wanted
have you
it to
ever-
keep warm.
Good and bad
Yeah.
ways. I think we did it at the same time, didn't we? We were kind of modifying lady crotches, and men's crotches, I think too, actually. Or was it?
I think the
shoulders?
first one we did was Gung Ho from the 25th anniversary gift
Yes.
pack.
So
We did
what did
his
we do
crotch
basically?
area.
We essentially just used a sharp what was it, like a knife or something, to just shave a little bit extra space around, where the where the leg goes in, essentially. So you're trying to
Absolutely.
make it a little bit extra wide, as it were.
You would have to
And
dismantle the legs at the thigh joints or at the thighs and take
yeah,
them
so you
off
take it apart, and then
the
basically
T-hook.
you're just increasing the size of those holes a little bit more to make it so that the leg can move more in a wider variety of angles. That's essentially
And
what it is, isn't it?
do you remember what we used? What tools?
I feel like we basically just used one of those like scalpels.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it would have worked
something
better with a
exceptionally
Dremel,
fast, probably.
and then like to sand it to give it a smoother finish would have been great. But like, yeah, we were absolute savages back then. Just taking a blade, a naked
What
blade
do you
to
mean
our
back then?
cliche. But anyways, like fortunately with Scarlet, her unitard does have a seam, a line that you
Yeah,
can
but you
use as
can
a guide
actually.
to cut along. And if you do use that as a guide, you wind up with a very nice range of motion. So
Mm.
that's the one bit of advice that I can offer. And it seems Gerard found that out rather organically because in the time it took us to cook up this response, he has actually done that operation
Well,
and
then
done a very
fantastic.
neat job
Yeah.
of it. So yeah, it just guys, I guess
It's just
be
being
bold,
careful.
go for it.
Yeah, go for it, but also be careful. Like, like go do a little bit to test to make sure that you're happy with it, because once you've made the change, you can't go back.
Operation
Like-
Crotch Skim.
Yeah. Once you've sliced it off, you can't put it back on.
And let that be a lesson to everybody.
Absolutely.
He also added a little bit of adhesive to the ball and socket to give it a little bit more stick. So that's another thing that the 25ths sometimes need after you've done a little bit of
Yeah, 'cause then
modification.
it's too loose. Yeah.
Hmm.
You want
I
it
mean,
to still
they
stick in
have
there,
those
but you want it-
little
yeah,
like
more movement.
they have little pads, don't they? If I'm remembering
think so.
correctly,
I'm
that stick
12.
in there. Hmm. little
They have
Yeah,
balls
like little
and
grooves
sticks,
and stuff inside there.
a little
Yeah.
groove.
Like
Yeah.
grips. It grips
Mhm.
it to make it easier, for movement and the ball.
And I guess my
Um,
last
Looks like
little
a
piece of
spider egg.
news. I don't know if you guys checked out the latest issue or the latest episode of the Chaplain's Assistant's Motor Pod. It happened to be episode 33, I'll have you know. And that just makes it
Ooh,
that
Perfect
much
for
more.
Cujo.
interesting.
Exactly. Old pal of the show, Cujo, was on there talking about the Black Book with Gary V. So
Oh,
awesome.
fantastic.
Highly
Nice.
recommended. Check it
Fantastic.
out.
Hell
Also,
yeah.
I'm going to be today. I'm also going to be jumping on a show called Toy Connections. I'll be chatting Motu. I'll be joined by some seriously cool Motu fans, like Chris Miwa, amongst others. And yeah, so keep an eye open for that one as well. That's I'm gonna be on there. It's gonna be interesting. Ken is a cool guy, so I was on him. On him.
You're
I
on
was
him.
on a show with
Nice.
him and Zaz
Okay.
when we had Scott Knightlick from
Well, I'm glad you're on top of
Spectre Creative.
this.
I'm
Paul.
on
That's
top of it,
fantastic.
man. But I'm very excited because I get to flick my Motu bean a bit, so to
Yes,
speak.
do it. Well,
Yeah.
what got me very excited was seeing this comment on our last episode, 270 Mystery Boom Boom,
Scoop.
from Droz Walker 9. He says, I loved your retail shopping stories. From being on the other end at stores like Toys R Us and Target, it was a challenge to get the display set up as requested. I think people will get more sneaky with the plastic repackaging for those special returns of merch. And the vehicle debate was a fun angle for this week too. Hell yeah.
Thanks,
Steven
Jaws.
surprised us with incredible, crazy, yeah. Go watch it. And also, Rob Dog from North Carolina
Rob Dog.
got back in connect with what commented as well, and we all do absolutely remember you. I love the chicken at that chicken place.
Zaxby's.
And yes, and that cool machine, the machine with all the cool drinks. I absolutely love that too. And it was fantastic meeting you.
That was like Hell 9000 of drink dispensers. I mean, guys, you don't understand. That shit looks like the future to a South African, okay? Here, we got like at Burger King, it's like, you got 5 things. Most of them are diet versions of like Pepsi or Mountain Dew or Sprite or something. And you like sit there and it's like
cubes, and that's the worst. Man, that thing was the best thing ever.
That thing's like beep boop 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 beep boop 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 boop.
It knows
Here's
what you want to drink before you even drink it.
Yeah. I want you to have Dr. Pepper, cherry. Would you like to mix it with something? Okay.
I think this has been a very productive hour and a half. We've shot all our ideas out there, a lot of them. Got a lot of feedback from our fantastic Joburg force, who all the early guys who joined us, everyone who came through. Thank you for joining us. It's amazing. I'm always amazed because I think this is a very weird time for Americans, the time that we just recorded this. So thank you for joining us. And
also how cool that you guys got to be, part of. You essentially got to witness what it's like when we're planning these things, and it is
incredible.
You should be so lucky.
Amazing. They're so fortunate to have been here for this experience.
No, I mean it in the sense that like
we've blessed them.
No, but what I mean is like no, I don't mean it like that. God. I mean it like you got an unadulterated sort of view of it. We didn't. It's not. This is our real process. This is like you got to be a fly on the wall for real here. Yeah.
And everyone in 271 planning a Playmotion. Everyone out there, you got to hear this. I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, comment below with any ideas you have. We promise not to include them because Steven will eventually come up with his own idea of what he wants us to do. So yeah, thanks for joining us for 271. And I hope everyone has a fantastic weekend, a fantastic day, evening, night, afternoon. Paul, you're going into a blackout now. I hope
any time now my power's gonna die.
Any second now you're gonna disappear from this world, but you'll come back to us in 272.
My spark lives.
It lives
Thanks
on.
to everyone for listening, but special thanks to all the people that keep the lights burning, at least here in Singapore. Thank you, Berg Force, our Patreon honor roll, the guys and girls who are awesome, chucking us a buck every now and then. It's much appreciated. It keeps things running. And that's it from me. Catch you next week, episode 272. Who knows what the agenda will be, but it'll always be fun and G.I. Joe related. Yo, Joburg.
Hell yeah. Yo, Joburg. Burr, 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 burr. Burr, 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 burr.